Anime. It's one of the most popular forms of entertainment in the 21st century with 100 million people watching worldwide, whether you call it a cartoon or not. Hailing from 19th century Tokyo and evolving from manga kimonos of 8th century Japan, anime originally made its debut in the world. Despite its highs and lows, anime has made its colorful mark on the world. However, just like there's color within the anime world, there's also gray areas that are worth breaking down and discussing for the sake of finding a solution. However, I'm going to put this however here because we're not just, because at first I was going to talk about multiple things. Because I could talk about issues with fandoms and people going above and beyond for these shows. Or I could talk about the issue with how many people fetishize Asians due to the amount of anime or K-pop that they consume. I could talk about the gatekeeping and people selling anime merch without a license or just all types of stuff. I could talk about that. I could even talk about the whole weeaboo otaku word origin and why it's questionable, right? I could talk about that. Or I could talk about an issue that I feel that is very, very, very prominent in anime that a lot of people brush over. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna, have this whole thing where people will sit here and be like, oh my gosh, keeping it real when they're actually finding some kind of weird reason to be mean. It's not gonna be like that. Hey y'all, it's Chemistry. We're blessed and highly favored here, and I play video games and do social commentary. And today we're going to be talking about the main two things that I just noticed that is becoming a very, very big issue and has been a big issue in anime, which is pedophilia and incest. But aside from that, let's get shapoppin, shall we? So you know how I said, like a few months or so ago, that I was gonna redo this video because I have a completely different perspective, a new perspective to add on things. This is it. This is the time. So, cause I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm just gonna straight up tell you. So, the first part is specifically about Lolicon and the reality that before there was Lolicon, there was something else that was already made that basically built itself up to the point of where, it kind of evolved itself into Lolicon and Shotokan. And that's Chigo. And some people might be looking at me like, what is Chigo, right? What is it? So when I was looking it up, because I was looking in a lot of places, because something that, I wouldn't say it scares me, but what I don't like to do when it comes to tackling topics or things that are kind of in another culture is I don't want to say anything that is disrespectful or undermine something, such as saying something wrong or saying something and it doesn't mean that. Because there's a lot of people that will get Chinese and Japanese tattoos and they think it means something because Google Translate told them something, and meanwhile they don't even realize they tattooed chicken soup on their back. So it went on gshow.org and I looked up Chigo. I'm just like, okay, cause I was doing a bunch of research and this one lady had a whole PDF. She did a whole study, and the word that stuck out to me and was very confusing was Chigo. And I'm just like, what is that? I don't know what that is. So I looked it up and it shows three things and they're nouns. So the first thing is festivity page, like festivity basically. Number 2 is a baby or child. Number 3 is boys kept by pederasts. Now some people might be wondering, what exactly is a pederast? And I asked myself that same question, right? And I thought about it because when I was doing some research, because like as a Christian, whenever I get curious about things, Especially things that other people tell me, because I don't necessarily like to go off of word of mouth. I like to look stuff up a lot. Like, I looked it up because somebody brought up pederast, and I'm like, So I looked up what pederast means. And it literally means a man that literally has sexual relations with a child. So a pedophile. And some people will be like, oh, why are you targeting Japan about this? I'm not targeting them specifically because Greek and Rome, before they did it, Greeks and Romans were practicing this stuff like heavy back in those times. And that's already weird within itself. And then on top of that, I pretty much was like, I found this video because I was like trying to search up more about it, because I'm just like, okay, what exactly is this? I need to know more historical data on this, right? So luckily, there was only one YouTube video that was talking about this. And there's like a few other videos that were talking about what I'm talking about now, but still. So I took a bunch of notes. I took like a whole paragraph worth of notes. Like, I just summed it up. It was actually more than that. So basically, a chigo is an acolyte or an altar boy, basically. So you know how the Catholic Church has altar boys, right? Imagine an altar boy, but for Buddhism. And that's like pretty much chigo, because at the time in Japan was practicing Buddhism at the time. Chigo were really popular within the 12th to 16th century in Japan. So super influential rich families, sent their sons to Buddhist monasteries. Like how people would send their kids to boarding school, not because they're baby kids, but just, to send them there. That's kind of what happened. So they would send their sons, their underage sons, mind you, to royal temples or monasteries to study and perform duties such as religious duties and so forth. So they were given room, board, benefits, money, etc. But sadly, they were used sexually. Now, chigo were between the ages of 12 to 19. And this whole thing lasted for up to 4 to 5 years. And then after those 4 to 5 years are up, what the master of this child would do is they would literally be like, okay, I could choose to let you go if I wanted to, because at that point, it's not up to this child that has been used to be free. It is up to this grown man. And that's crazy. And it gets to a point of where some of these masters or men were no longer interested in the chigo once they're adults. And it's not like I'm just making this up and just saying stuff and yika. There's whole pieces of historical writings and more. Like, there's a whole book dedicated to chigo called Book of Acolytes, I believe. And there was a lot of stuff historically or just in general that depicted this. That is literally chigo. So literally years later, what happens is the whole thing with Lolicon. Because at this point, there was already people making lewd drawings and poems, like pretty much like erotic content of underage girls and other people, right? There was this stuff already going on. So once animation was introduced in 1917, years down the line, Lolicon was birthed. Like I said, the name literally came from the 1950 book, Lolita, where it literally depicts this grown man trying to get into a relationship with the underage girl that was his stepdaughter. Literally, that's what the whole book is about. It gets to a point of where 1970s, they start to draw these underage girls in these erotic or sexual situations, which is already weird within itself. Real red flag. So then we literally zoom into the 2000s. A lot more of these shows are pumped out. And here's what we got today. That's the whole thing, right? So, in the second part, I really just, because some people are going to be like, okay, that's the origins, but that doesn't mean it's questionable. I'm going to bring up fandoms this time. But I'm not going to bring up fandoms in the sense of like, oh, y'all need to stop gatekeeping or whatever the case may be. This isn't about fan wars boogaloo. This is correlated with this topic. For years, people have shipped specific characters together and so forth. My problem is when they start to ship minors, characters that are underage together sexually. That's where I have a huge problem. Like, literally doing like super sexualized fan art of underage characters is a problem. This should be common sense, but for some people, for whatever reason, it's normal. Because I remember when it was this one person that was like making a whole thing about how some fandoms in the anime community are very questionable. And one of the fandoms that came up was My Hero Academia, because there were people that were trying to put grown adults, mind you, that were trying to put Deku and Bakugo together to the point of where one got pregnant and was married and stuff. And they literally tried to put them in sexual situations and stuff. And I'm just like, you do know they're kids, right? You do know they're children, right? I hope you know this. And there would be times where some people, you even have some people weird enough to ship people together that are siblings. And then even crazier, it's not even just anime in this instance. It's in other places too, because there'll be times where I'll literally just like, I'll be chilling and I see people post some of the most diabolical things talking about Thor X Loki or Yaka Yaka Minky. And it's not even the mythology, the actual mythology origins. It's the Marvel characters. And I'm just like, technically speaking, in the Marvelverse, aren't they brothers? Some people literally say like, oh, you're just saying that because of morals. I hate to be that person, but it's not just morals. It's the fact that if you literally try to do anything with your family member.
Okay, so y'all see this list, right? I just want to make sure these are all the reasons not to be dabbling in incest, because that's already weird within itself, and then it's not even just scientific at this point or genetic at this point. It even says it in the Bible. So in Leviticus 18 verses 16 through 18, literally in verse 6, it literally says like straight up, you ain't got no business having sexual relations, let alone marrying somebody that you are close relatives with, because that's immoral. That's wrong. And then years down the line, humans figured out, oh, maybe God was onto something because of all these genetic defects and stuff that's happening.
And it's not even just that. It's like you could have chosen anybody. Why are you trying to sleep with your... Why are you trying to sleep with a family member? But enough of that, okay? We're gonna get into the meat and potatoes, because I already know some people are gonna be like, oh, you're just saying that just to say it. You're probably saying that because you're a Bible thumper and you're trying to rain on our parade. No. I'm a Christian and I watch anime, but I've had to stop watching anime. And I even get nervous to ask people, like, hey, what are shows that you suggest? Because some of the shows that people literally will send me will have literal elements of Lolicon that are being slipped into those shows. or incest that are slipped into those shows. I don't even really ask anymore. I don't ask anybody, what's your favorite show? I'm just like, okay. I look it up myself. I'm just like, okay, what are solid shows to watch? So, you know how I said, I thought that people definitely were going to look at me funny, so I had a list of examples to show. I'm finna introduce them right now. Starting with card captor soccer. I didn't even know this until one of my friends brought it to my attention. But in the show, there is a whole arranged marriage between a grown teacher and a kid in elementary school. That's already weird within itself. Number 2, Hunter. Hisoka and Palm, should I say more? So Palm literally forces this 12-year-old kid, Gon, mind you. Palm forces Gon into a whole relationship. And it's like, you're like 27, almost 30. Why are you trying to go with a 12-year-old? And a lot of people be like, oh, she's just desperate. I've had a lot of desperate moments in my life. But I've never been desperate enough to date a child. That is gross. Need I say more? Need I say more? And then example number 3. 3 with a question mark. But in my opinion, ban dating Elaine. Because in my opinion, Elaine looks like a whole child. And to me, that's weird. And he even mistaked a whole nother child for Elaine. Number 4, technically speaking, is Mushiko Tensai. I believe that's how you say it. I could be wrong. I am waiting for somebody to roast me, though. So, this man's behavior, Rudius's behavior in that whole show says everything I need to know. And no, I didn't watch it. I did my due diligence and research. Because one thing about me, if I ain't never seen a show, I'm going to look up the plot. I'm going to look up some spoilers. So I don't have to deal with, not knowing. So, number 5, Bungo Stray Dogs. So, Mori. So, Mori's very weird to me because this man flat out said that he likes, he made a joke saying that he likes his girls under the age of 12. And I'm just like, as a grown man, why would you say that? Why would you say that? Dragon Ball. Y'all not gonna like this one, but it's true though. So, and I'm not talking about Dragon Ball Z because later on in the series, they chill out with the buffoonery and they actually focus on the action. I personally don't care for Dragon Ball Z. I'm not finna get into my reasons. I just don't. Just because I don't like it, that means I'm not finna sit here and be biased or anything. But Master Roshi. All my gripes are with Master Roshi because Exhibit A. Master Roshi literally asks for Bulma's undies when this girl was a teenager. And legitimately was on top of that, something that shocked me, pertaining to, the manga artist of Dragon Ball, when he was being interviewed, he straight up said, because the interviewer asked, what type of old timer would you be, like, what kind of old person would you be specifically? This man legitimately said that he would be the type of geezer that pretends to be senile so he can peep on his daughter in the bathtub. And then they just moved on to the next question like nothing happened. Like, there's so many other examples I could bring up, but I don't want to keep y'all here all day. Am I saying that all anime has this stuff? No. Ooh, another example. So it was like a while back and somebody suggested me to watch this show. It was like Domestic Girlfriend, and I'm just like, okay, I don't know what that's about. The first episode, I realized that the domestic girlfriend is this dude's stepsister. Not like Like, why would you suggest a show to me that's incest? Like, the light in here just isn't on. Like, another example is No Game No Life. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. It's just like, I feel like these are prominent issues. Not, yeah, like, these are specific issues that I feel like should be, talked about more. It should be exposed for all of these things to be in, for all these things to slickly be put or boldly be put in these shows, and nobody says anything, and everybody's saying, oh, ignorance is bliss, it doesn't matter, it doesn't hurt other people, but it has the potential to mold people's perspectives on things. As a result, it's going to continue to happen. These things are going to continue to happen until somebody puts their foot down and basically just say, hey, I'm going to need y'all to start making more shows about college students or grown adults. Y'all sexualizing these kids, these girls, these people way too much. Y'all are putting hints of incest and other stuff in these shows way too much. And it's not every anime, because there's great anime out there. Like, there's shows like Attack on Titan or just like other shows that don't depend on fan service and other crazy tropes in order to pull people in. And even when I was younger, whenever I would watch anime, I told myself often that if a show depended heavily on fan service or crazy stuff, it probably wasn't a good anime to begin with, if that's all it took. And it's crazy how these really weird things, such as panty shots and all this other stuff, and even, like I said, trinkets and tropes of Lolicon being snuck into these shows are seen as fan service. Like, as a fan of anime, I'm not a fan of, just thinking the show is lit or just watching the show that I think is wholesome, and the next thing you know, a whole panty shot just like pow, just like appears on the screen. Like, that's enough to make me not want to watch the show anymore. I feel like it's very disgusting whenever people kind of just brush it off. It was like, oh, just ignore the blatant pedophilia, or just ignore the incest in the show. It's great, it's amazing. Because for me, that's just really weird, because if it has those things in it, how is it that you can just ignore the fact that, the manga artist drew that stuff in there with no hesitation, no hold back, no nothing. And then a lot of people will say, oh, well, just because they make this stuff or whatever the case may be, that doesn't mean they do it in real life, and ticka. You don't know what people do behind closed doors. Because keep in mind, there has already been a manga artist that has been arrested for possession of child pornography. And then technically speaking, Lolicon is considered digital child pornography. So you don't know what these people been doing behind closed doors. And then the culture over there doesn't see pedophilia and incest as, as a very big issue the way we do. Like, that doesn't change the fact that it's an issue at the end of the day. Because it's not just over there where it's a problem. It's over here in the States too. It's over here in the States. And just about in every single culture, there has been some kind of pedophilia or incest, sadly, riddled within the culture, some kind of way, somewhere. Especially in ancient times, if we're being completely and totally honest. Does that make it right? Absolutely not. So I don't need anybody basically saying like, oh my God, like you're being prejudiced. No, not at all. Not at all. Because I can do a whole video about examples of this very same thing in U.S. culture or American culture. or in other countries. Something that will forever just upset me is a lot of people be like, oh, but they're not real, whatever the case may be. It's the principle of the matter. Because how can you say, with a certain heart that, okay, well, I just like this content. It doesn't hurt me and it doesn't hurt people. Like, there have been girls in Japan, mind you, and they have literally been molested and assaulted on trains, on the way home, commuting home. This stuff has been happening, and it's typically high school girls that these grown men were doing this to. And it got to a point of where, because there's this one woman that did an interview, and she was 36, and she was saying, when she was younger and she was commuting home, almost all the girls at her school had that happen to them because of the specific fact that, because of anime, in my opinion, and this is just my opinion, it is a commentary video. So, because of some of the tropes that have been introduced in anime, it negatively affects high schoolers sometimes. Not even just sometimes, just as a whole, because now with the hypersexualization of minors, especially girls in these shows, as a result, you have grown men and other people looking at these high school girls in weird ways. Like, it was really feel like it is important to watch not only the media that you consume, but call it out whenever there is a prominent issue in it. Because of the fact that if you don't, it's going to continue to happen. You have adults, and keep in mind that a lot of those shows are written from, like, the manga artists are literally writing these stories and situations from their perspective on these situations, or how they think specific characters will handle specific things. You have whole adults that have experienced things like this as a kid, and the adult viewed it as cool and ew and taboo, but this child was like, yuck, this grown man or whoever is trying to talk to me. I feel like at the end of the day, if you say that you're against pedophilia, anything that paints minors in the 21st century in a romantic and sexual light needs to be, like, banned. It needs to be, oh my goodness, just like, I can't even find the words, but it's just like, at the end of the day, you should not be entertaining no type of entertainment or content like that whatsoever. And a lot of people say, oh, but that's how it was back in the day, back in ancient times, babe. So we're in 2023. We're not in 1738, and we're not in 1152 AD. We're in 2023. Get with the times. I just feel like, pertaining to anything, if you wouldn't do it in real life, why entertain the thought or the drawing or content that depicts those things in fiction? And even if you were to do it in real life, you're a sicko for even wanting to do that to begin with. And it's not even me trying to be overly biased. It's just, at the end of the day, as somebody that knows people that have been SA'd as kids and so forth, it's like I can only imagine wanting to watch anime, and then you see these characters either say or act or do these crazy things towards these kids, and everybody is cosplaying as these characters and all this other, these pedophilic characters and all this other stuff, and it's kind of just like, it's like the math just isn't mathing, and it makes everything that they say about, this kind of stuff seem performative. Because I'm not asking, I'm not saying everybody gotta be a mega quadrillion activist. Ain't nobody saying that. It's just like, stand firm and stand true on something if you're against it. I'm just saying. It's like, it's just, I, that's really just how I feel, and that's my commentary on it, because I don't understand why people enjoy the exploitation of children, whether it is real or fiction. Because I feel like a lot of people feel like, oh, well, it's taboo and it's not real, and it's just, Lolicon is just my escape, and like just all types of crazy things that people will say. And I feel like if your escape is watching content of minors in sexual or romantic situations, especially with adults, mind you, you have a big problem on your hands. Because in a lot of ways, some of the shows that we watch, especially in anime, it greatly depicts some of the very things that we go through in everyday society, especially in modern day society. You have anime right now that are literal social commentaries on the world that we live in today. But simply calling Lolicon an escape is dangerous. It is dangerous and it is very harmful, because I hate to be that person, but nobody wants to come home after getting off of work, turning on the TV, and seeing a whole minor bust it down for a grown man while saying Oni-chan. Like, that is weird. The fact that you think that's normal, I feel like is very questionable. To me, it's very questionable. And a lot of people will be like, oh, it's just taboo, it's art. You wouldn't understand. Of course I wouldn't understand, because these are literally the same people that will be okay with cosplayers looting characters that are minors, especially cosplayers that are conventionally attractive. But when other people do it, it's a problem and they're pedophiles. Instead of just saying that it's a very big issue whenever everybody does it. I really wish that this would be something that y'all really just sit down and take a cold, hard gulp and understand how much of a problem it is. Because it's not even just a morality issue. It's not even just a morality issue here. It's the specific fact that the moment you call it out, people literally point fingers at you and treat you like you're the bad guy just for saying that, hey, I want to watch a show where people don't put this weird stuff in it. I think I want to wake up in the middle of the night, fix me a cheeseburger. Actually, I wouldn't do that. But because I just said it because I'm fat. It's just an example though. Like, I just wake up, fix me, like, I don't know, some pancakes or something, and I watch a show that somebody suggests me, and the main characters are cousins and they're dating. I don't want to watch that. All of this is just an underlying issue that not just Japan has specific things pertaining to their culture that kind of just like okey dokes, pedophilia and incest, and is very weird, but also other countries do the same too, but they do it in a very sneaky way, especially in the United States. And I can actually give like other kinds of proof about that, with the way that Playboy literally had a 10-year-old child pose for their magazine. And that says everything you need to know. This is my big letter to the anime community. Because mind you, I've been watching anime since I was 10. I'm 25. It's been 15 years. This is my open letter to the anime community of saying, like, let's have a little bit of decorum and pretty much demand to have shows that doesn't include these things, because believe it or not, you think some people, in these spaces, in these anime spaces, think that, oh, it's so kawaii and it's so this and it's so that when it comes to lolicon and stuff, but they don't realize how triggering it is, you know, for those that have been through sexual assault or molestation and so forth. Those type of shows are very triggering. Let's really talk about this and address the elephant in the room instead of being quiet and being mute, just to continue to want to fit in these spaces and not have people turn on you for telling the truth. If we're gonna call a thing, let's call a thing a thing. Let's stop hiding it. I got it out of my system now. I'm Gucci. I still think it's a problem though. I'm a forever keep talking about it. But if you like this video, go down, press the like button, hit the button beside the subscribe button to get more notifications on when I post next. Also, share your thoughts down below. Share your thoughts down below. But aside from that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Alright, bye guys.